Time for the last deck profile of the 3 new heroes. Now, first thing you're probably asking yourself looking at this, is that a Tunic? Why the heck is there a Tunic in this deck? Let me cook. I'll get there in a sec. I wanted to take kind of a more defensive, fatiguey approach with the deck. To be honest, I don't think Teklo's very good right now. I'm sorry, I said it. I just don't think he's quite there. It's not just because the no arcane barrier thing on his evos. That's kind of a killing blow to the deck right now to me, but I just don't see the value yet. If I were to play it, this is kind of the approach I think I would be taking with the deck. Idea with it being is that we block really aggressively. We keep playing these evos out of banish. The way we get them into banish is by blocking with them, and then we either scrap them or we use something like fabricate to get them into banish from our hand. And then we just keep accruing value by playing these evos over and over again, blocking with them, getting our gun up to power level, and we have some big power spike cards like the War Machine at the end of the game, or some of our Evo upgrade cards at blue. But essentially we're blocking, and then we're asking the opponent the question, can they cross the finish line? And if they can't, we have recursive value with our weapon at the end of the game, or if it goes really long, we can use Singularity. Yes, we're playing Singularity, but it is not the focus of the deck. It's just a tool in our basket of things that we can use to try to close a game out. Now, for the Evos that I chose to play, I'm actually playing 2 different sets of them, and both of them are the subtype base, which is important. It means that we can overlay them on top of each other and keep slamming Evos on the table if we want to. I went with the red battle-worn ones for 2 reasons. One, they're pretty cheap to play, and I think they fit the cost curve of the deck nicely. One of the really nice things about them is against a faster deck, we can get these into play much easier than the blues and still generate okay value with them, getting to block for 3 with it. And then importantly, it fits the cost curve very nicely of the deck, where we can play one of these for 2 resources, and we can also shoot the gun once we've got 2 evos in play, since the gun will cost 1, letting us cover all of this with a blue. And then the other set that we're playing is the Steel Soul cycle, which is the ones that you really want if you're going to be using Singularity, and this is the reason why we're playing Tunic. What this lets us do is we can, instead of having this like kind of weird cycle where we're like pitching 2 cards to play this, we can use the Tunic to play one of these for just a single blue, and then when we hit the end of the game, I've got all the pieces that I have in play covered with evos, and I want to move on to the next phase. We can then block with the Tunic, but then we can use Fabricate to re-equip a chess piece from our sideboard. And that's where this comes in. We bring this in, and then we can start piling on our chess pieces on that and move into the next phase. And then from there, we can look to play Singularity or something else. The Tunic is also nice because it lets us have a free gunshot, kind of like you would see with Charles's Briar deck, where he'd go Tunic counter Reaping Blade. Very similar idea there. Every 3 turns, I get some free damage, if I'm not using that to play the 4-cost evos. Kind of pick and choose which one you want there. A lot of this is trying to find ways to let things fit our cost curve better. A lot of the cost curve of this deck is pretty awkward. We have a lot of things that cost 3. Our pistol shot doesn't really fit into that. Like, I'm not trying to go like play one of these for 3 and then pitch a full card to shoot my gun. That doesn't feel good. It's not good value. Kind of defeats the point of having such a good rate on some of your cards. And then, like I said before, we're using scrap cards to get these into our banish so we can play them. Ideally, you're not trying to play these from your hand or from arsenal. You have to sometimes because it's just like the hand God dealt ya. Like, maybe you end up drawing one of these off of your hero ability and you're like, well, I either arsenal this or I P penalty myself. I guess I'll just arsenal it and play it later. So sometimes you do that, but ideally you're not trying to play it that way. Ideally, you're trying to block with them, and then we play these scrap cards. I went with the cheaper scrap cards in this. I didn't see much benefit in the effects of the more expensive scrap cards. We're not really playing anything that uses steam counters that we care about putting them on. Didn't really care about the overpower or more power on any of them. It just, none of the expensive ones seem to really fit. I like these because we can block with our whole hand and then play one of these 0-cost scrap cards. And the effects on these are actually pretty good. Getting the resource off of this lets us play one of the 4-cost ones off of a single blue. So if we have one of these with 2 blues in our hand, we can activate our hero ability and then play one of these from banish with the extra resource that we have, and then draw a card, arsenal pass. The Quicken token can be useful, kind of similar idea. We can then play a scrap card later, and then because we've got the go again off of the Quicken token, we don't need to activate the hero ability if we want to play one of the evos. An exact same idea with this of just playing it as an instant is just the same thing with less steps. You could definitely muck around with which scrap cards you're playing. I went with just all the 0-cost ones, and I wanted like an extra set of blues in the deck, so I played this. It could be something else, like maybe another evo upgrade upgrade card. I really like making the Evo upgrades blue since I want to, you know, pitch blues to play the game, and these get better the later the game goes, so it kind of fits that perfectly. Like, this will end up playing as if it were a red later on in the game. And then Scrap Trader, I'm only playing 2 of these. I think you could play 3 of these. It's a card that can be kind of awkward when you're playing it because, for one, you don't want to see these in multiples. It's a 2 block, so when it's bad, it's pretty bad. It's really only good once you're a bit deeper in the game and you got a couple of your Evos in the graveyard. So if you draw this too early, it's not great since you can't pitch it away to do anything. Once it does do the thing, gonna make you 4 resources. That's crazy. That's exactly as much as we need to play these. It lets you banish one of these, play it immediately if you have another blue in your hand to activate your hero ability to do it as an instant, and then you've scrapped another card so you can just have another Evo in your banish for later. Or you could just banish a single Evo, get the 2 resources, and then pitch a blue, play this as an instant. Or you could banish and then use your Tunic counter to go up to 5 resources floating, activate your hero ability, and play one of the 2-cost ones. There's a lot of different ways that you can play this that are kind of flexible, which is nice. And then beyond that, we filled out the deck with some defensive cards to staple, Sync, Fate, Sigil. I like Sigil because sometimes you end up with some extra cards, and this is just like a way to dump a card without using an action point. It's a pretty decent arsenal. If I arsenal this and then I draw a random card later off of using my hero ability, I can cycle out the Sigil and then arsenal the new card. Sync and E-Strike, though, have an extra role in the deck where I think I would probably try to prioritize arsenaling them, so that way when I see Singularity for the first time, I can make sure I put it on the bottom of my deck by syncing it away. Theoretically, you can do that with Fate also, but have to literally be the top card of your deck when you do that. And then for the rest of the list, I just filled it out with a couple kind of tech tools. I imagine you're going to want Remembrance in a lot of matchups. We're playing this as kind of a fatigue deck. We really don't have that many power cards. It's really just the cycle of the 9 of these, and I'm not even playing all of them. I didn't play the one that destroys things that are blocking it. I didn't really see much value in that right now. It really just gets armor. I don't really see much point in that. So being able to Remembrance these back later on in the game, so that way you can play these multiple times in a game. And it being in yellow isn't that much of a hindrance since we can play one of these off of the yellow when we see the Remembrance the first time. And it also works perfectly with one of our game plans that we have in the deck. Now, I don't know if this is good enough, but Icelander is definitely a cursed matchup for this deck, like 1000%. None of the Evos do anything really in that matchup. So what I did is I brought in AB3 and I have the Warhorn package, and we're just going to try fatiguing them. There's definitely not enough pressure in the deck to race an Icelander and like try to punch them down. Just going to try preventing damage and hopefully fatigue them, and if they try setting up the combo, we have the Warhorns to stop them. Probably not good enough, but it might work against some Icelanders. Topium, it might be the case where we just like don't play these and just open up the sideboard slots to something else in the deck and just say, I lose to Icelander and I accept that. Kind of sucks. It could be just a different defensive card, like maybe Unmovable or something. We got a lot of blues, so Unmovable is pretty decent in the deck. And then we got Command and Conquer, just kind of good right now with Lexi floating around. But that's the deck. There's definitely some other ways that you can take this hero. For instance, you could just play the cheaper Evos that costs like 0 or the instants and just like speed run getting all your Evos in play, so that way you can just start taking advantage of all your Evo upgrade cards, all the other things that care about number of them in play, and I'm all in on this strategy. The problem I have with that is those cards are pretty bad if you draw them in multiples, and they don't really do anything in your hand. Can't block with them and then scrap them. Like, theoretically you can, but then you're blocking for 0, you might as well just play it. You could theoretically play the Evos in your deck and try to boost them. It's a lot of inconsistent strategies in my mind. In theory, could work. It's just like not something that I'm interested in doing. I don't think that's the type of strategy that's very good in Fab. You could definitely take some wins with that though. I think the way this hero is designed and is intended to be played though is more slanted defensive. It's kind of the direction I went with the deck. If you've had any success with this hero though, and there's something that you've tried or found that's worked, let me know in the comments below. Let other people see it. Try to figure out this deck with other people. But that's it for the video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I have other deck profiles for the other 2 heroes up, and I'll have a link over here for one of them, so check it out. I also have a Patreon if you guys want to see some more like strategy guide focused content of how to improve at the game. And make sure you subscribe, help support the channel. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Perfectly quiet. Start recording. Wee woo, wee woo.